Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Welcome to the Fourth Angels Learning Center. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Today, this is going to be our part two Melchizedek study, diving into the verses. We're also going to dive into some frequently um, understood ideas to see if they're actually scriptural or not. You understand? So, the last video that we did on Melchizedek got quite a few statements. And so I want to address those statements. All right. So many people have a perspective that Jasher reveals the identity of Melchizedek. So we're going to look in the book of Jasher to kind of look at it in comparison to what we saw in the Torah. And then we're going to go into Hebrews chapter 7 to show the priesthood and the elements of the priesthood and how they're different and how they how they resemble one another. So praise Yah. Let's get right into it. The first thing I want to do is I want to share with you guys something from the book of Jasher that I think would be very needed, I would say. So this is the book of Jasher. Um, it claims to be translated from the original Hebrew into English. Um, the the initial obtaining of the book of Jasher came from the Latin Vulgate. So it was only located in the Latin Bible, the Bible that the Catholic Church translated into Latin. There was a few books that were only written in Latin. You don't find those anywhere else. Second Esdras is one of those books, which is the reason why when they revised the canon, they didn't include second Esdras to a lot of manuscripts and third and fourth Maccabees as well as Jasher, because these were only located in a Latin copy of the scriptures, which is very biased to the Catholic Church's, I would say, teachings and doctrines. All right, so in Jasher chapter 16, it makes a reference. So I'm going to go there, right? This is Jasher chapter 16. It kind of parallels the story that we see in Genesis a little bit about Abraham's life. And I want to point out this statement here, looking at verse 11 of Jasher chapter 16. And it says this. It says, Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem. And then it says here, the same was Shem, went out with his men to meet Abram and his people with bread and wine, and they remained together in the valley of Melech, or the valley of the king, according to Genesis, the valley of the king. It says, Adonizedek blessed Abram, and Abram gave him a tenth of all that he had brought from the spoil of his enemies. For Adonizedek was a priest before Elohim. And all the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah who were there with their servants approached Abraham and begged of him to return them their servants whom he had made captive, and take unto himself all the property. This is a little bit different on how Genesis depicts this conversation. Genesis said for them to take whatever you want, just leave us this. Um, it didn't describe it as them begging him to give them his servants. But anyway, the point is, this is the reason why many people say that he is Shem, because of this small sentence right here. The same was Shem. Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, the same was Shem. Now, here's the contradiction. There's quite a few contradictions, but here's the first contradiction. Let's go to Jasher chapter 88. And this is during the time of Joshua and the Israelites taking over Canaan. And it says this later on in verse 50, I believe, 55. Jasher chapter 88, verse 55, it says here, when Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that the children of Israel had done what they done to Jericho and Ai, he sent to Ahoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmut, Japhiah, king of Lachish, Debir, king of Eglon, saying, come with me, help me, that we may smite the children of Israel and the inhabitants of Gibeon who have made peace with the children of Israel. So if Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, is Shem, why is Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, saying, let's kill Israel now? Here's what I believe. I believe in the translation of this book, wherever they found it, they saw Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, and then someone added, which was the same as Shem. Because I don't think that they saw that there was Adonizedek here in the time of Joshua also. Now, here's the interesting thing. It doesn't really give much information about these kings, but it does say this in verse 57 that the Adonizedek was an Amorite king. Shem is not an Amorite. So Shem is the Amorites actually come from Canaan, which we're going to look at right now. Canaan comes from Ham, not Shem. So how can Shem be Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, and then later on we have Amorite is the king of Jerusalem? This is a contradiction within the book of Jasher. You know, it doesn't. There's nothing to support the idea that Shem is Adonizedek. So I'm gonna go to show a little bit more about the lineage, to show the differences. Remember, in the last video, we talked about the priest of the nations. We talked about the covenant that was given to Noah and his sons. And we talked about how that covenant extended out to Noah's sons, which filled the earth and created all these nations. I want to go into uh, the removal of Abraham from his kindred and from his family, and I want to show you what was going on with the line of Shem. The line of Shem is what leads to Abraham. Ham is what leads to Canaan and the Canaanites and the Amorites and all of that stuff. But I want to make sure that we understand this and that we can show this from Scripture. So let's go to Scripture. First thing I'm going to do is I wanted to point this out last time. In Genesis chapter 14, here's an interesting thing that I noticed in Genesis 14 about the kings that Abraham killed. So, king of Abraham, the days passed, and then it says one of them was the king of Shinar. Shinar is the land of the Chaldees, is what many people, historians, understand it as Mesopotamia. Those who are biblically inclined understand Shinar as being in Babylon. Guess where else? What else was in Babylon? Let me see if I could. Let me see it. I'm gonna go to Joshua chapter 24. Let me go to Genesis chapter 12. Here we go. So of the Chaldees. Remember, Moses is moderating this. So Terah is in the land of his nativity. Of the Chaldees. This is where Abraham is from. And it's funny how they keep saying of the Chaldees, because Moses wants the Israelites to understand, where are these Chaldees located? Let me see if I could find. Now remember, we said that one of the kings was the kings of Shinar. Right here, and so in Shinar, one of the kingdoms from the Tower of Babel is Shinar, is the land of Shinar. But I want to go further down. The king is of Shinar. So Shinar being the land of the Chaldees, the other king is from Elam. And so I want to show you this. So Shem's children lived in the land of the Chaldees. Shem's children is also or one of Shem's grandchildren. Let's go to Shem's lineage real quick. Let's see. This is a little bit further back. All right, so let's look at Ham real quick. So Ham has a son, Cush, which is Ethiopia, Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, Phut, which I believe is the father of the Philistines, which is in a lower part outside of Canaan, and then you have Canaan, right? And they developed these land masses, and they named the land masses after the person who established it. So Cush is a location, Mitzrayim is Egypt, Phut is the land of the Philistines, Canaan is the Canaanites. All right. It says here Nimrod from the Tower of Babel came from Cush, and ultimately Nimrod being from the children of Ham. Now Ham's children, specifically from Cush and Nimrod, he starts a kingdom called Babel, and the people start to erect other cities. Erech, Akkad, or Akkadian, Calneh, in the land of Shinar, right? So these are cities established in the land of Shinar. Now remember, the people at this time were all one. Out of the land went forth Asher. Asher is the father of the Assyrians, and they built Nineveh, the city Rehoboth, and Kalha. So a lot of these names, Moses is mentioning a lot of these names to help them understand the geographical location of these places, so they could understand who's the father of those places. Let's go further down, right? Canaan, which is another son of Ham, he begets Sidon, the Sidonians. This is where Jezebel comes from. Jezebel, this is all the way at the top of Canaan. Het is Abraham actually met the son of Het. It was the son of Het that he was asking to buy the land so he could bury his wife. So I want you to attach all of these people to a lineage, right? This is Canaan's son and grandsons. The Jebusites were the Canaanites. Those are Canaan's son. Jebusite is the Canaan's son. They were actually occupying Jerusalem when David even got there. David drove out the Jebusites, Jebus, the Jebusites. And then it says here the Amorites. They come from a person named Amory. These are Canaan's sons. These are his sons and grandsons. So the Amorites are Canaanites, Hamites. Then it talks about the Hivites. And these are all the Canaanite families. The Zidonians, right, all of Ham's children. Now here's an interesting part. It starts up by saying Shem is the father of all the children of Eber, Eber being the term used for Hebrew. So he's saying all the children of the Hebrews, or the Hebrew, um, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him the children were born. So the children of Shem was Elam, Asher, which started the nation of the Assyrians, or I'm sorry, the location, Mesopotamia. Elam, which I'm going to show you who Elam is. Elam is Shem's son. Arphaxad, Lud, and it says Aram. Aram is translated for some reason later on as Syria, Syria. Now it's Aram. It should say Aramean. I'm not sure why it says Syria. And the children of Aram is Uz, and it mentions these other people right here, and it goes to the birth of Eber, which is the one who they get the name Hebrew from. But I wanted to show you the child Elam. So we already saw the Shinar was where Abraham lived. That was where Abraham and his father lived. Now look at this. This other person is a king of another Shemite location, Elam. So it's interesting how these are Shemite kings from locations established by Shemites. Abraham is dwelling in a Hamite land, nations established by Ham or Hamites. And so let me show you this. When Abraham went into the land, it says here, they went forth and came into the land. Abraham passed through the land unto the place where Shechem was in the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was in the land. They filled the land. They controlled the land. So in Canaan, all the Canaanites controlled the land. And in Hebron, where he lived, all of the Amorites controlled Hebron, Mamre, Salem, all of those locations. Matter of fact, it says here that Abraham got into a confederate. He united himself with a few Hamites, specifically Amorites. Let me show you this. So it says here, one of his friends was Mamre the Amorite. Abraham the Hebrew dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol. So Mamre wasn't the name of a place at that time. Mamre was the name of the place after him, after this person. The person that named the location Mamre was actually Abraham's friend. So you have Abraham, Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner. So of course, if Mamre is an Amorite, then his brothers are also Amorites. So you have these three Amorites, which come from Ham, the sons of Canaan, are joined together with Abraham. And then you have these Shemite kings from the king of Elam and the king of Shinar coming and kidnapping Lot. And Abraham goes and kills those kings. Abraham joins himself with the Hamites and kills Shemite kings. The reason why I'm saying this is because I want you guys to understand, like there's not a what I would say, undestructible lineage anywhere. When people talk about the Shemites, there's many pagan, false, idolatrous Shemite nations in Scripture. When people talk about Hamites, yes, there are many pagan Hamite nations, but there are many righteous nations. And in the last video, we pointed out a few, just a couple Hamite righteous nations. So I don't want you guys to be assuming that everything that comes from Shem is right. So you have Shem having these sons, and the kings of these locations are evil And they're trying to say that Shem is this Adonizedek, is this Melchizedek. Impossible. Only Amorites ruled in that area, specifically Salem, where Melchizedek ruled. Now, the reason why this is important, because the area where he lived was all Amorite land. I showed the map already, where the Salem is actually north, a little bit north of Hebron, and it's in the Amorite area where the Amorites controlled or was in the land. So when we get to Joshua chapter 10, we're seeing Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, and we're seeing him trying to attack Israel, and he was a Amorite king. These were 5 Amorite kings. So everywhere where Abraham was, they became wicked and abominable. Let me show you. It says here, one of the kings was the king of Hebron. Abraham lived in Hebron. This was where Abraham lived. So you have where Melchizedek ruled and then where Abraham lived, and now they don't know who Abraham or the original Melchizedek was. They're just doing their own thing. And so I just wanted to show you that. I don't want you to get caught up with Shem and all of that stuff. Jasher is contradicting itself, because later on in chapter 88 of Jasher, he says that Adonizedek wanted to kill Israelites. But it's consistent. When you look at the Torah, you see Moses said the Canaanites ruled the land. One of those Canaanites was Melchizedek. Then later on, you have all of Abraham's friends that lived in the same area were all Amorites. Then Genesis chapter 15, he says that the sins of the Amorites is not yet full. And then when we get to the Israelites, the sins of the Amorites is full. They're doing abominations. They're sacrificing their children. They're calling for diviners and talking to the dead and all of that stuff. So now Yah is driving them out, not because they are not Israelites, but because they were unrighteous, wicked people. They turned away from what they had before. Melchizedek being a priest of the Most High and being a Hamite, being a Canaanite, is very clear. Right? So now we're going to go into Hebrews chapter 7. Now, Hebrews chapter 7 is not talking about, Hebrews chapter 7 is not trying to explain the Melchizedek priesthood. It's trying to basically express that the Levitical priesthood is inferior to something that Yah wants to establish. So let's go into that. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 7 and see if we could dissect it together. All right. Hebrews chapter 7. And it says, for this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High Elohim, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings, blessed him. And it says, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth of all. First being by interpretation, the one that Abraham gave a tenth to, his name is interpreted King of Righteousness, or his title is interpreted King of Righteousness. And the fact that he's the king of Salem, the location, Salem, is translated peace. So this is very important for the next verse. The next verse, he says, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of days. And then it says here, but made like unto the Son of Elohim, abides priest continually. He's like the Son of Elohim. So this is not a Yahushua apparition or pre-existent manifestation of rulership. He did not rule before he was incarnate. Like, that's not, there was no kingdom on this earth that he ruled and then passed down the title Adonizedek or Melchizedek to Amorites. The title was already given. He already was in the covenant. He was the priest of the Most High. He was already in the covenant with the Most High, and he had the title from Yah as King of Righteousness, as the priest of the Most High. So he was already in a relationship with Yah. But the way that he carried himself, the righteousness that he displayed, resembles or made like the Son of Yah. It resembles the Messiah. So he's not telling them that this person never had a father or never had a mother or never was born. That's what descent means. Never was born, never had a beginning of days, and never died. That's not what it's saying. It's saying that the record that Israelites and different nations normally kept, the record is not, they don't have any record of his lineage. But he resembles or is made like the son of Elohim. Now, let me show you why. Verse 4-6, it says, consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils. Verily, they that are of the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priesthood, have commandment to take tithes from the people according to the law. That is, from their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham. You see that? So they have a command based off of the law, the instructions, to take tithes. This is what the priesthood did. But it says here, but he, and then it mentions descent again, whose descent, but now is getting a little bit more specific. His descent is not counted from them that received tithes of Abraham and blessed them that had promises, meaning that he is not related to Levi. He's not related to Levi. It's not talking about related to Abraham. His relation is not connected to Levi, the tribe of Levi. Okay, so this is what it means by he had no descent. Without descent, like there's no record of his lineage. His mother, his father, his lineage, his birth, and his death is not recorded in scripture. And if you go to Genesis 14, it's not recorded. It's not recorded. So it reiterates this in verse 6 and says that his descent is not counted from them. It's not counted from Levi, from the Levi and the priesthood, from the sons of Levi. So it says here, without all contradiction, the less is blessed by the better. So you see what it's talking about. It's talking about a better priesthood is not focusing on trying to reveal the identity of Melchizedek. Because nobody knows. Nobody knows when he was born. Nobody knows when he died. Nobody knows his mother. He is not, his record of life is not connected to Levi. So I want to make that clear. So it says here, so now we're going to switch over to breaking down the priesthood. This priesthood is better than the Levitical priesthood. It says, by the Levitical priesthood, men that die receive tithes, but there he receives them of whom it is a witness that he lives. And as I may say so, Levi also, who's received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham, for he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. You see him? So let's continue. If perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise up after the order of Melchizedek and not called after the order of Aaron? I want to make sure that this is understood. The Levitical priests didn't give the law to the people. They repeated the law to the people. The scripture is clear. Exodus chapter 24 shows us that the law was dictated to Moses. Moses wrote it and delivered it to the people, all the people, including the children of Levi. So here it's talking about the function of the Levitical priests was to deliver the law, to explain the law, and to teach the law to the people. So he's saying, why is there a need to go back to the Melchizedek priesthood or not continue the Aaron priesthood? This is a very important question for the Hebrews because this is their current reality. They're dealing with the Levitical priests. They're looking at the Levitical temple, right, in which the Levites did services in. They're looking at these sacrifices and they're trying to understand, where is this transformation? How is this change? So the author of Hebrews is trying to bring them back to remind them, look, this is how what was supposed to be, and it transitioned into something that was temporary. Looking at verse 12, it says here, for the priesthood being changed, there is also a necessity to change the law. Now, I don't want people to be confused with this. This is not saying that the law is done away with. It's saying changed. So what is it talking about? The priesthood. The priesthood is changed. For the priesthood being changed, there's a change also of the law. What is that change? So now, what did the priesthood do that there had to be a change of the law? The priest didn't control the entire law, but there were laws that only applied to the Levitical priests. There were laws, there were garment laws, there were process laws, sacrifice laws, showbread laws, carrying the ark laws. There were laws in which only the sons of Levi could perform. There were other laws that only the sons of Aaron could perform. So when the priesthood was, I would say, brought to a better reality in Messiah, there had to be a change of all of those instructions that dealt with the Levites. There had to be a change. It wasn't that something was done away with, it's something that was brought to reality, something changed. We were no longer dealing with animals, we were dealing with what the animals represented, which was Messiah. We no longer dealt with the children of Aaron that died. Now we're dealing with the Son of Yah, which never dies, Messiah. We wasn't dealing with an earthly temple that was burned down by Rome and Babylon and different people. Now we're talking about a tabernacle, according to chapter 8, um, uh, verse 2, a minister of the sanctuary of the true tabernacle, which Yah pitched and not man. Now we're looking at Messiah ministering in a tabernacle in the heavens, and not in a man-made tabernacle that is burnt down every couple hundred years. So it says here, the reason why there had to be a change, because he of whom these things spoken pertaining to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. So it's saying all the Levitical priest and sacrifices and temple services spoke about someone who wasn't a Levitical priest. He did not, the priest could not be anyone outside from the children of Levi. Verse 14, for it is evident that our master sprang out of Judah. Our master sprang out of Judah, which tribe Moses said nothing concerning the priesthood. It says, it is yet far more evident that after the similitude of Melchizedek, there arise another priest. And I like that they say similitude because it can't be Messiah. It's talking about the office, not the person, right? So it's not talking about the actual man that was Melchizedek, priest of the Most High. It's talking about the priesthood that man possessed. This priesthood was original. It was original. It was something before the Levitical priests, and I want to show that. I want to show that even more in a second. So it says, who is made not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life. And we're going to look at that verse in Psalms in a second. We looked at it last video, but we're going to look at it again. It says, for he testifies, you are a priest after the order of Melchizedek. For there is verily a disannulling of the commandment going before for the weakness and unprofitableness of it, because the law made nothing perfect. The law pertaining to the Levites, the law pertaining to the Levitical order, made nothing perfect, but the bringing in of a better hope always did, by the which we draw near unto Elohim. And inasmuch as not without an oath, for these priests were made without an oath, but this with an oath, that said to him, yahuah swears and will not repent. You are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. You are a priest after the order of Melchizedek, the king of righteousness. By so much was Yahushua made a surety, a guarantee of a better covenant. They truly were many priests, because they were not allowed to continue because they died. This man, because he continues forever, has an unchangeable priesthood. Wherefore he is able to save them to the uttermost that come unto Elohim by him, seeing that he ever lives to make intercession for them. For such a high priest became us, who is set apart, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, made higher than the heavens, who needed not daily, as those high priests, to offer up a sacrifice first for his own sins and then for the people's. For this he did once, when he offered up himself. For the law makes men high priests which have weakness, but the word of the oath, which was since the law, makes the Son who consecrated forever. Now, the word since, many translations translate that into after the law, which came after the law. But the word since is a generic term that can mean both directions, that can go to both directions. It can mean behind, with, or after. The Strong says it could mean amid, which means at the moment, the same time. It could mean after, among, so it's a pretty between, so we're looking at this statement, right? I want to make sure this is clarified. So this priesthood is made with a word of oath, which was since the law, makes the Son who is consecrated forever. So here's one issue. There was a person called Melchizedek that was already in a priesthood of this order. And he existed during the time of Abraham. And the Torah wasn't given until 400 years after Abraham got into a covenant with Yah. Then there was a covenant given to the children of Israel, and there was a Levitical priest added to this relationship because of certain circumstances. I'm going to tell you about it in a second. So Melchizedek was the priest of the Most High. He existed. So how can this oath only exist after Sinai if there was a person during the time of Abraham that was a priest of the Most High Elohim in the same order that Messiah would be a priest of. And I want to make this clear. How can someone have a priesthood or participate in a priesthood before Messiah participates in the priesthood? How was Messiah the high priest of a priesthood that he did not participate in first, or didn't belong to him first? You see, so that since the law is impossible, before the law makes more sense. You can even say with the law, because Abraham received commandments as well. So that's one of the things that I wanted to clarify. The priesthood was inferior to the priesthood. Why? Because there were symbolic references. A lot of those things in that priesthood was symbolic referencing. And I want to show you this in the very next chapter. So it goes from establishing the Melchizedek priesthood, and it starts going into the very next chapter. And the only thing that it's talking about is not the law, thou shalt not kill, not keep the feast, not observe the Shabbat. It's not talking about anything. Like I said, the law that needed to change was the law that pertained to the priesthood and the priesthood only. What did the priest do? The priest offered sacrifices. Verse 3. Every high priest is ordained to offer sacrifices, gifts, and sacrifices. Wherefore it was a necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer, because the symbolic referencing is that this priest is going to offer something. You see that? If yahushua was on this earth, he would not be a Levitical priest, because there are priests that has to offer offerings according to the law. What law? What did they have to do? Chapter 7 showed that they had to offer offerings for their own sins, but according to the law. So he wouldn't be able to be performing those things. Now look at what it says here. Verse 5, it says, who serve unto the example and the shadow of the heavenly things. All the Levitical priesthood elements are shadows of heavenly things that was supposed to bring things into reality, not do away at the cross, bring into reality. It was supposed to change, not be done away with. So it says here, it was a symbol of the heavenly things. It says Moses was admonished by Elohim when he was about to make the tabernacle, and Yah said to him, see, says yahuah, that you make all things according to the pattern that I showed you on the mountain. This is Exodus, and we're going to go to that in a second. It says, but now he obtained a more excellent ministry. So we see clearly that the tabernacle and everything pertaining to the priest services, the location of the priest service, which is the tabernacle, the elements of the priest services, which is the sacrifices, are all fulfilled in Messiah. Messiah has brought all those things into reality. Okay? So here's how you prove. That the priesthood was offered to Israel at Mount Sinai before the Levitical priest was even given. The Melchizedek priesthood was given to Israel before the Levitical priesthood was established. And now everybody knows this verse. Exodus chapter 19. And when I say Levitical priest, I mean the tribe of Levi, not Aaron's sons. Aaron was already chosen when there was in Egypt. Aaron was chosen to be the mouthpiece of Yah. But it was the Levites, the children of Levi, that wasn't a part of the priesthood. There was no priesthood with Levites at first. It was only Aaron and his sons, and there was the elders, the 70 elders. But let me show you this, right? Exodus chapter 19, looking at verse 6, he says, you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak unto the children of Israel. This statement is repeated. Let me see if I can find it. 2 Peter chapter 2, looking at verse 9. Is it chapter 2? First Peter chapter. Yeah, First Peter chapter 2, right? It says, you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you shall show forth praises of him who have called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So Peter is now calling the believers a royal priesthood collectively, not talking to one tribe. He's talking about the whole entire nation. Okay, this is what Yah offered in Exodus for his whole entire nation to actually participate in a kingly priesthood. So what happened? How come? Who was supposed to be the king? Now watch this. When they was leaving Exodus, when they was leaving Egypt, look what he says in verse chapter 13. Sanctify, set apart, right? That's what sanctify means. Set apart to me all the firstborn. Everything that comes out from the womb among the children of Israel, man and beast, both of them are mine. And I'm going to show you why the importance in this. This right here is the template on how he's going to have a kingdom of priests. This is how he's still setting up the families of his people, of his nation, to become a kingdom of priests. Because the firstborn has to now uphold what the fathers of the home is doing. The fathers of the home is like a priest, and the firstborns are supposed to uphold that priesthood. This is how the Aaronic priesthood was functioning. The firstborn of Aaron always became the high priest next. He's established in that with every family of his people from his nation. So now, what happens? They make a golden calf in Exodus chapter 32. Specifically, Aaron makes a golden calf in Exodus chapter 32. And this is what happens. They get caught. Yahushua comes down and he says this in verse 26. Moses stood by the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on Yahuwah's side? Let him come to me." All the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him. So Levi, and then in verse 28 said, the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people of that day 3,000 men. And then Moses tells them to start consecrating themselves again. So Levi is the one that comes. Now watch this. Numbers chapter 3. He's basically establishing the priesthood of Aaron and his sons. Specifically Nadab, his firstborn, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Now Nadab and Abihu actually got killed because they offered strange fire, and they got killed. That's what it says in verse 4. Nadab and Abihu died before yahuah when they offered strange fire before yahuah in the wilderness of Sinai. And they had no children. Eleazar and Ithamar served in the priest's office in the sight of Aaron, their father. So they replaced those two older children. Now watch this. Then Yah said, bring the tribe of Levi near. Present them in front of Aaron so they can serve Aaron and his sons. Verse 7. They shall keep his charge and the charge of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of the congregation to do the service of the tabernacle. They shall keep all the instruments of the tabernacle of the congregation and charge the children of Israel to do the service of the tabernacle. You see, and you shall give the Levites unto Aaron and to his sons, and they are entirely given unto them out of the children of Israel. Now, listen to this very interesting aspect right here, right after we pass this. You shall appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priest's office, and the stranger that comes near shall be put to death. This aspect here, the stranger, he's talking about a person that's not from Aaron's lineage, not the Levites. He's talking about only Aaron and his sons will work this priest's office. Nobody outside of this family, even any other Levite, can come to do the things that Aaron and his sons will do. Now watch this. Verse 12. Behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, and look what it says here. Instead of all the firstborn, that opens the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore, the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. For on the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed or set apart for me all the firstborn of Israel, both man and beast, they shall be mine, saith yahuah. Number the children of Levi after the house of their fathers by their families, every male of from a month old to upward to the you shall number them. And let me see if he says this again. So as he's establishing the Levites as being the servants of Aaron and his sons to work in the temple services, he makes it very clear that the Levites was supposed to resemble the firstborn. So before the Levites became priests, they had Yah had the firstborn of every tribe to be to do the service in the tabernacle. But he says this instead: take the Levites from among the children of Israel instead of all the firstborn of that open. So they're replacing all 12 tribes. The firstborn children of all 12 tribes of Israel, the Levites replaced them because of their sins. This even shows you things, it changed even after that. But there was an everlasting covenant that was already given. It was already offered, and they could not enter into that covenant. They could not enter into that covenant because of their sins. And the only people that came on Yah's side after that was the Levites. So they became the representation of the example of the shadows to reveal what the people of Israel is supposed to become as a whole. The families of Israel, how they're supposed to be set up, with the firstborn being the priest, with the father being the priest, the high priest, and when he dies, passing it on to his sons. This priesthood is the Melchizedek order. It is the king of righteousness order, the royal priesthood. This is what he offered Israel in Exodus 19. This is what Peter told the believers in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. This is what we're told we need to participate in. The Levitical priesthood only came about because of sin. Period. So every time you hear about the sons of Levi, it's a resemblance. It's a symbol of something that's real. So when you hear about the sons of the Levi, and I'm not sure if it's Zechariah or Isaiah, you hear about the sons of Levi being purified. It's not talking about the tribe of Levi. It's talking about the sons of Levi. It's talking about the ones who the sons of Levi replaced. It's just like in certain locations, you'll see him talking about how David was going to be the king again. And then in other places, it says the son of David. So when it says David, it's not talking about David. It's talking about Yahushua, David was a resemblance of Yahusha's rulership. You notice it doesn't say he's going to sit on the throne of Jehoshaphat, even though Jehoshaphat sat on David's throne. It says he's going to sit on David's throne. There's a very connection. There's a connection between David and Yahushua that is always brought to light. Just like all the many priests, it's not going to say, the priest of Ithamar or Phinehas. No, it even talks about Zadok, the priest of Zadok, which is a Levite. But that's not talking about how Yah was going to bless that priesthood. It wasn't talking about Zadok, because Zadok was a righteous man. Zadok entered into a righteous covenant. Now, give me 1 second. I want to show this example real quick. Hopefully, if I could find it. If I could find it quick enough. Okay, give me 1 second. There's an example showing the difference between the Levitical priesthood and the everlasting covenant priesthood. And I believe this is a it says Numbers chapter 25. Let's look at it. I believe this is an example of how the Melchizedek priesthood is better than the Levitical priesthood. This is Numbers 25. Now, this is the Baal worship that occurred, right? They started bringing women in there and doing like these sex rituals with these women. And they started to sacrifice to these deities. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay every one of them that were joined to Baal Peor. And one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of Israel, who was crying in front of the door of the tabernacle of congregation. And then there was a man named Phinehas, right? Phinehas, the son of Eleazar. Eleazar was Aaron's son. Remember, Nadab and Abihu died. So the only ones alive was Eleazar and Ithamar. So Eleazar is the oldest. And so if Eleazar dies, it would be Phinehas that would be the high priest after him. So it says here, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw this. He rose up from among the congregation. He took a javelin in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was kept from the children of Israel, and those that died in the plague were 24,000. Now watch listen to what Yah says to Phinehas. Now remember what I told you. Phinehas, and it's going to keep telling you his lineage because it wants you to understand this. Phinehas is the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest. So it's Aaron, then it's Eleazar, then it's Phinehas. These are the oldest sons and grandsons of that's going to follow in the high priest position. It says that Phinehas turned my wrath away from the children of Israel while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consume not the children of Israel in my jealousy. He says here, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace. Now he's making an oath. He's making an oath with Phinehas. Now, Phinehas is already in line to be the high priest in the Levitical order. Now, watch this. I'm going to give you my covenant of peace. In verse 13 says, he shall have it and his children after him, the covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous for his Elohim and made an atonement for the children of Israel. So, what do you mean? He's already, if the Levitical priesthood is the everlasting priesthood, how is this a gift? He's already the son of Eleazar, the next in line for the high priest position. What did Yah give him that was different from what he was getting by the Aaronic order? He was given an everlasting priesthood. So if he's already in the Aaronic priesthood, and now Yah is giving an oath promising him the everlasting priesthood, he is telling him, you are a Melchizedek priest because of your zeal for me and your desire to atone for Israel. So a Levitical priest obtained an everlasting priesthood from Yah, not because he is the son of Aaron, but because he stood on righteousness. And because he stood on righteousness, Yah gave him an everlasting priesthood, which pretty sure we know it's the Melchizedek priesthood. Melchizedek priesthood is kind of like a foolish name for it, but the priesthood according to Melchizedek, or in the order of Melchizedek, or you can say the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. These terminologies better fit this priesthood. Melchizedek priesthood makes it sound like that man Melchizedek, it's his priesthood. And that's where the confusion comes. So I hope that I clarified the book of Jasher. I hope I clarified the lineage aspect of Abraham uniting with righteous Hamites to defeat unrighteous Shemites. I hope I showed how the Levitical priesthood was less, not only because they were blessed by the Melchizedek priesthood, but because the Melchizedek priesthood was offered to Israel before the Levites started to join in this priesthood. So, and I pray that this is kind of like the nail in the coffin, where it talks about Phineas in Numbers chapter 25 receiving an everlasting priesthood after he's already in line for the Aaronic priesthood. So I hope that there's more understanding to Melchizedek. There is some more information on it, but I'll probably try to answer the questions, or put the answers to those questions into another video. But I'm glad that you guys joined the study in the class today. Send me your information, comment as you did in the first video. Give your comments. What do you guys think about the Adonizedek Shem situation? What do you guys think about the Leviticus situation in Numbers chapter 3, where they took the place of the firstborn? I want to hear from you guys, so that way we can keep our study going. And I look forward to hearing from you guys soon. Shalom.